This is the real Wargamer at the Wargaming table. I am going to play some Iron Cross at this time, but first, and completely unrelated, is a little reading from John Lewis Gaddis's Strategies of Containment, a Critical Appraisal of American National Security Policy During the Cold War. So this is picking up after Kennan has made his argument. So by the time Kennan left the policy planning staff at the end of 1949, it was clear that his recommendations no longer carried the weight they once had. Slowly but steadily, the burden of proof, always a substantial encumbrance in a bureaucracy, had shifted from Kennan's critics to Kennan himself. My concept of the manner in which our diplomatic efforts should be conducted is not shared by many of the other senior officials of the department, he noted in his diary in November of that year. Even if the Secretary of State shared my views, he would have to operate through people whose philosophy of foreign affairs would necessarily be a different one. It is worth asking how this happened, how an administration that had found Kennan's reasoning persuasive regarding the first two stages of containment came to reject, however regretfully, his advice concerning the third. The answer appears to lie in the increasing difficulty Truman and his other advisers had in accepting Kennan's assumptions. 1, that the danger of war was remote. 2, that asymmetry could be tolerated indefinitely. 3, that negotiations, if in the interests of both sides, could be productive. And 4, that diplomacy should be flexible. Intelligence estimates continue to confirm the assumption that the Russians would not deliberately risk total war, but the administration grew less and less comfortable with Kennan's corollary argument that it could therefore safely concentrate on the economic rather than the military instruments of containment. The problem was that Kennan's appeared to be an intuitive rather than a verifiable judgment. Soviet intentions, his critics argued, could not be measured as precisely as Soviet capabilities. And even if they could be, intentions, unlike capabilities, could shift overnight, thereby negating the value of the measurement. As Paul Nitze, Kennan's successor as director of the policy planning staff, observed, "We are in the position of being unable to prove either that the Soviets would or would not use force. For those seeking to minimize risks, always a majority in bureaucracy, it seemed wiser to base decisions on measurable quantities than on what Kennan himself admitted was the unfirm substance of the imponderables." It is significant that during the drafting of NSC 68 in the spring of 1950, Acheson dismissed as irrelevant efforts by Kennan and his fellow Soviet experts, Charles Bolin, to rank the Kremlin's foreign policy priorities. The important thing, Acheson thought, was the USSR's capacity for aggression, whatever its present intentions. In retrospect, it is not difficult to see the weaknesses in the line of reasoning. There was in the administration's emphasis on capabilities at the expense of intentions a tendency to equate the importance of information with the ease of measuring it, an approach better suited to physics than to international relations. There was also a failure to grasp the fact that capabilities are a function of intentions, and vice versa. Capabilities do not exist except as the result of decisions reflecting intentions, however imperfectly. Intentions count for little if they neglect capabilities, both as they exist and as they are likely to. Nor is it all that clear that Soviet capabilities were in fact more knowable than Soviet intentions. There is a case to be made for the argument that changes in the instruments of power available to the Kremlin surprised the West more often during the Cold War than shifts in the objectives with which that power was wielded. These are arguments verified by the passage of time, though an advantage obviously not available to the strategists of 1950. A second and closely related problem had to do with the toleration of asymmetry. Kennan's concept of strong point defense, with its idea of applying one's own strengths against adversary weaknesses, assumed a hierarchy of interests in the world. Not all interests could be of equal importance. Not all threats could be of equal danger. But this meant being willing to tolerate situations in which Soviet strengths were directed against American weaknesses. The two most worrisome by 1950 were the loss of mainland China to communism, which appeared to make the rest of Asia vulnerable, and the situation in Western Europe, where the deterrent effect of the American atomic bomb could no longer be relied upon to counter Soviet conventional force superiority. Kennan acknowledged these asymmetries of power, but had little to recommend other than to be of good cheer. as he later recalled arguing with respect to Europe. We are like a man who has let himself into a walled garden and finds himself alone there with a dog with very big teeth. The dog, for the moment, shows no signs of aggressiveness. The best thing for us to do is surely to try to establish, as between the two of us, the assumption that the teeth have nothing whatsoever to do with our mutual relationship, that they are neither here nor there. If the dog shows no disposition to assume that it is otherwise, why should we raise the subject and invite attention to the disparity? Since China was not a vital power center, Soviet control over it, even if it could be maintained, which Kennan doubted, would pose no significant threat to the West. Non-communist Europe was much more vital, but the Russians knew that they could not take it without a war, and that they were unlikely to risk, even with their own atomic weapons. All right, switching gears quite a bit here. So the Russians have come onto the map, heading south to north towards the outskirts of the built-up area there. I paused here because this Russian soldier, MP armed soldier, moved here, and at this point, back here, the German medium machine gun right here should be able to see through this stuff to see the moving Russian, and I'm looking at opportunity fire. I think that the Russian side wants to conduct opportunity fire. German. The German medium machine gun wants to conduct opportunity fire on the Russian. So German medium machine gun, opportunity fire. Opportunity fire is within. Let's get one thing out of the way, because like these riflemen, actually that's a rifleman. That's an MP armed soldier. That's a rifleman. The riflemen have a opportunity fire range of 3 hexes, so that's why all these guys moved onto the board without these guys reacting. Okay, so one thing, let's get this out of the way. The German medium machine gun here has a range of 18. It's right up there in the top right hand corner of the chit there, right there, 18. So machine guns have a opportunity fire range of their printed range there, the printed range. So clearly it's within range. Next thing is observation. How do I establish that the medium machine can see the moving Russian soldier? Then for now I'm going to go ahead and treat these as these ones as what do you want to call them? I'm going to treat them as destroyed trees, but I guess for all game purposes they're still a tree. So it's just a graphic difference between an intact tree and a blown up tree. But I guess in game terms I'm going to treat them just as trees for now until I see something else in writing. So, and then, I talked about observation, and then would the medium machine gun need to pass a performance check to conduct this opportunity fire? So the first thing for opportunity fire, during the movement phase, all non-phasing infantry, AFV, machine gun ATR, and ATG units which are eligible to fire may perform opportunity fire. So what does eligible to fire mean? 10.1, eligible to fire. Which units can fire? All right, this is fairly important. Any normal status unit that has not already fired in the player turn is considered eligible to perform fire. Combat, pin suppress units are not eligible to fire. Units that have already attempted to fire in the player turn are not eligible to fire. Exception, machine gun machine gun modes. Yikes. Well, so much I've forgotten. I really wish these rules. I think this is such a great game, such a favorite game of mine. But I was thinking the other day, how come none of these rules stuck in my head? Some games really stick in my head, and some just don't. All right, I completely forgot to establish machine gun mode, so I will, as a convention here, definitely just treat my start off with my machine guns in whatever is the, and I don't even think the rules call it a default mode, but whatever I think of as a default mode is what they're going to be on to start. Okay. Any unit which attempts to fire must pass a PC. Units eligible to fire may do so. Alright. Units eligible to fire may do so in the game turn phase as described below. This is the movement phase. The non-phasing player may attempt to fire to moving enemy units with any eligible friendly units capable of opportunity fire. Oh, okay, that goes back to chapter 13, opportunity fire. So I think we know. No, actually, does machine gun mode have to do with eligibility for opportunity fire? Probably. Exception, AFEs. Oh. Machine guns, initial range, print on the counter. Infantry units and AFEs attempting opportunity fire have their PC die roll modified +1. Machine guns, ATRs, ATGs do not have their PC die roll modified in this phase. Each unit attempting opportunity fire in the reaction movement. No, this is not the reaction move phase, but there's also a +1 there. And I'll bet you these are not. Summarized anywhere. This game really needs more tables on the play aid. No, I don't think they are. Okay, important though. So again, are they capable? Okay, so I guess they're capable of firing. So now what? Do I go now to the basic fire combat resolution procedure? I guess I do. Well, I'm going to say I do. I guess maybe later I'll find out that's not right, but I'm going to go. So yeah, I'm going to go with it is. So basic fire combat resolution procedure for AP. This is AP fire. This should be, yeah, this is all AP fire in this scenario. Designate target hex here, obviously. Determine if the unit. Okay, now I determine observation. Yeah, and now that comes back to me, of course. But let's go through observation, and I think I made my own printout of observation because it's so important, right? Yes, I did. I made my own copy. Observation, which units can observe. I am going to observe base number for the type of terrain. So they're in the clear. So the base observation for is 10, right? Clear terrain observation base is 10. 10. If that's equal to or less, that's why it's very easy to observe in clear terrain because the base observation number is 10. But then we're going to look at these modifiers. Okay, so we have our base 10. Oh, that's why. That is why. That's why I had all those dice before to remind me. Well, it's 10. Base roll 10. Here's my machine gun. Here's the moving Russian soldier. All right, for every 5 hexes beyond an initial 5 hexes from the observing unit's hex to the, so it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. For every 5 hexes beyond an initial 5, so that's none because we're at 9. For each improved position, no improved position, for each tree symbol. Oh, in the target hex. There are none in the target hex. For each tree AFE rec in the hexes along the loss to the target. Now, I do believe that this is physically on the line of sight. So I'm moving my guys aside. Still base 10. This needs to be exact. Or thereabout. Yeah, 1 and 2. So it hits 2 trees along the line of sight. I do believe that's right. So +2 for each marsh. There's no marsh. If the target is a okay, so if the target is non-AFE in the down state, no. If the observing unit moved within, no. Okay, those are modifiers favoring the target. Yeah, that's right, because we're trying to get 10 or less. So +2 obviously benefits the Russian soldier moving, right? Modifiers favoring the observer. If the target hex was successfully observed on previous, and this is where this gets important. If the target hex is 2 or more levels low, no. If any unit in the target hex moved within the last 3, -2, so exclude them. Yeah, okay. So he's currently moving. That's interesting. Within the last 3 phases. Yeah, that would include the current one. So I'm going to say -2 is going to now negate the +2 that we had for firing through the trees there. There's an AFE. Observer is a commander. Well, I think anybody in the hex. If any leader in the hex affects that, that's a great reason to have a leader with the machine gun, which I like, because that aligns with reality. Aligns with reality. Yeah. Target extra 4, no. So mass basically. If any non-MG unit is used, AP, no. Okay, so that's it. We have a lot of modifiers, but basically it was +2 for the trees, -2 for the Soviet soldier currently moving. So I'll put those guys back. I do like this optional penalty. I will use every optional thing in these rules. Before the game begins, players may choose to attack on additional penalties. When there are no modifiers to the observer. When there... If the observing unit is in... I don't think that applies here. So, units using AP fire are not required to observe. Oh, right, that has to do with the observed or not observed. Not required to observe. Machine guns using fireline or SP attacks never have their AP fire habits of observed. Infantry units done this. Okay, all right. I guess we're good there. 8. So they observed. All right. So we'll pick up the fire procedure again. Okay. Now we have PCs taken for the units attempt to fire at the target hex. So this is a PC check. Where? Oh, 7. 7. Now, is there an opportunity fire PC modifier? This is a lot. I know I've played this game before, but there really is a lot for a simple magazine game. PC check. Circumstances. Morale recovery, opportunity fire. Okay. Maybe I vaguely remembered that indistinctly. 13.1. To perform opportunity fire. Each. That's in the reaction movement phase. 13.17. Okay, I guess that's just a suggestion. You have to actually look at the details. There's not a +1 for the machine, which actually I guess makes sense, right? Machine gun. When you consider, yeah. Okay. All right, so I guess it's a straight performance rating check, and look at that, 10. So they did not pass. Interesting. Oh, but I got that right. Yeah. Now, oh man, why does this stuff not stick? This is a great game. This really is, and I'm starting to think you got to really play this. I think I probably even arrived at this conclusion before. You got to really play this. And I never have played Squad Leader, but I think I remember hearing this comment about Squad Leader before, the original Squad Leader, that immensely enjoyable game, but you got to play it regularly to really get the most enjoyment out of it. So, okay, so they fail their observation roll. I'm sorry, they failed their observation roll. So what? I mean, can they still fire? All right, let's go. Machine guns do not have to observe target hexes. What? What do I do? Okay, so kind of the default machine gun mode is going to be, I guess it's DF. Was that direct fire or something like that? Because it's not fire lane and not spray fire. So do they still fire but at half firepower? Okay, to finish this out, I guess, and he failed the PC check, not the observation check. I guess there'll be a lot of guessing here. Again, I need to go back and watch my own videos. I'm going to treat him as having fired. Obviously, I'm not going to... Well, actually, he did successfully observe the hex. But I'm not going to place any of my own markers to remind me about the observation because the unit is moving on. So that's that. Yeah, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Oh. Yeah, okay.